Welcome to this brief overview of how Minikube and Kubectl are used in Kubernetes. Let's dive into these essential tools for Kubernetes beginners and developers. First, let's talk about Minikube. Minikube is a tool that allows you to set up a lightweight, local Kubernetes cluster on your laptop. It's perfect for testing, learning, and developing Kubernetes applications without the need for a cloud provider or a complex setup. Now, Kubectl is a command line tool that lets you communicate with Kubernetes clusters, including the one created by Minikube. Is how you deploy applications, inspect resources, and manage your cluster. Here's how they work together. You start a local cluster with Minikube using the command minikube start. Then Kubectl connects to this local cluster and allows you to deploy applications, manage resources, and test configurations. For example, say you want to deploy a simple web server. You can use Kubectl to create and manage the deployment and service. Minikube provides the environment where this server runs locally. In summary, Minikube gives you a local Kubernetes cluster, and Kubectl is a tool that helps you interact with it. Together, they form a powerful combination for learning and testing Kubernetes in a simple and accessible way. I'll be demonstrating how to install Minikube, a tool that lets you set up a local Kubernetes cluster. After that, I'll show you a few practical examples using Kubectl, the command line tool for interacting with Kubernetes clusters. First, you want to install Minikube based on the system of your machine and use the command provided to install on your terminal. Installed, we want to close the terminal and open a new terminal. Open Docker Desktop, then on the terminal, run minikube start driver docker for Windows. Here you will see Minikube starting up. Once that's done, you're going to use Minikube status to check your Minikube cluster. Since Kubectl is installed when Minikube was installed, you can use commands for Kubectl. Here I'm using the command Kubectl get node to see the node in my cluster. Note that Kubectl CLI is for configuring the Minikube cluster. Minikube CLI is for startup and deleting the cluster. Next, we will get the status of components, create and editing a pod. Kubectl get nodes gets the status of the nodes. Next, we'll create a deployment using Kubectl create. When we run Kubectl get pod, we can see the pod running. When running Kubectl replica set, this is managing the replicas of a pod. Here there are layers of abstraction. The deployment manages a replica set. The replica set manages a pod, and the pod is an abstraction of the container. Here I edited the image using Kubectl edit deployment ngx deploy, and then you will see the number of pods after we use Kubectl get pod again, and now you can see the number of replica sets has increased to 3. The kubectl logs command is used to view the logs of a container running in a Kubernetes pods. Logs provide useful information for debugging and monitoring your applications. Here I used kubectl create to create another deployment, and I'm checking it using kubectl get pod so we can see the two different pods running. In Kubernetes, checking the logs allows you to view the output generated by your application running inside a container. Logs are crucial for troubleshooting, debugging, and monitoring your application. You can check your logs from a specific pod using kubectl logs with the pod name. You check logs for debugging issues, monitoring application behavior, auditing and security, and event tracking. To delete a deployment in Kubernetes, you can use kubectl delete command. Here's a quick overview. Identify the deployment using kubectl get deployments. To delete the deployments, use kubectl delete command followed by the deployment name. To get rid of all of the pods and replica sets underneath, you have to delete the deployment using that kubectl deployment and the name. Another command used in Kubernetes is kubectl apply-f. When creating your YAML file, as seen here, this is applied and then saved. Once you've created the file, then use kubectl apply-f and the file name nginx deployment.yaml. Now that it has been created, then we're going to use kubectl get pod so that we can see the pod currently running. To check the deployment, we're going to use kubectl get deployment. And if you wanted to change something in that deployment, you would go back to the file using vim nginx deployment.yaml. and make your corrections, save, and then run the pod again. In this demonstration, what I'm doing is I'm going back into my YAML file and I want to change the replica set from 1 to 2. And once I do that, after changing, then I save the file. Next, I want to apply the changes that I made by executing the command kubectl apply-f with the name of the file. Kubernetes knows when to create or update a deployment. As you can see, it shows that the file was created. Now we're going to use kubectl get pod and we should see 2 replicas running. The kubectl get service command is used to list and display details about services in a Kubernetes cluster. A service in Kubernetes provides a stable way to expose your application to external users or other services within the cluster. This command lists all services in the current namespace, showing their names, types, cluster IP, external IPs, ports, and more. The kubectl describe service command provides detailed information about a specific service in a Kubernetes cluster, while kubectl get service gives an overview, describe digs deeper into the service's configuration and status. Another command when you want to save in a file is kubectl get deployment file name -o YAML and the YAML file. And here in our editor we can make the changes. You'll see the original and the new file, and you can make updates to that there. As you can see here, we deleted the deployments. And that's it. You've successfully installed Minikube. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.